Good evening, Alexandra.
Good morning, Swamiji.
Good morning. Sorry, good morning.
Good morning, Swami. In case you're wondering who Troop 66 Boy Scouts of America is, this is Betty Diamond, and I'm using my son-in-law's computer.
So are you in Davis now?
Yes, I am in Davis.
Good. Thank you very much for joining.
I thought you might be curious about who Troop 66 Boy Scouts of America is.
Good morning, Swamiji.
Good morning, Ujjwal.
Morning, Swamiji.
Good morning, Nell. Okay, good morning, everybody. Let us start. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my talk today is Sri Chaitanya, the love incarnate. Sri Chaitanya, also known as Gauranga, is an important personality in spiritual field. There are many, many followers of him, and not only that, other than his own followers, he is very much respected, and even respected as an incarnation by persons like Sri Ramakrishna. So his life is very important to study. So by studying the lives and teachings of these great saints, actually we get the association, the result of holy company with them. Because our mind dwells when we think of them, dwells on them when we think of them, and definitely the teachings we can really emulate in our life. We can check what we are doing, and we can really follow something which we come to know. So in that way, lives and teachings of great saints are very important for a spiritual seeker. Sri Chaitanya was born in the year 1486, and in the month of February, and the date was 18th according to Indian calendar. And he was born in Navadvip, which is about 85 miles on the north stream of Kolkata on the Ganges. Navadvip at that time was very well known educational town. That means nowadays we have university towns like Davis and such other places. So in that way, Navadvip at that time was known for a particular subject to be studied, that was logic. Very strange, logic. One town, whole town actually is devoted to the study of logic. Seems to be very interesting or surprising how actually that could happen. But in spiritual field, especially in the study of scriptures and study of Indian scriptures, logic is very important, because Vedanta is very much dependent upon logic. If you study, or if you want to study one of the principal books of Vedanta, that means Vedanta Sutras, Vyasa Sutra as it is called, which is one of the three most important books from the point of view of scriptures of Vedanta, one needs to know logic very well. Without study of logic, actually it is very difficult to study this Vedanta Sutra. Because there is one aspect of spirituality which is experience, and experience does not come to everybody. Those who are really seekers and those who are really dedicated and have that also the chance of having a good teacher and good guidance, they can only proceed for spiritual realization and can hope that they will realize the truth of what is being said in the scriptures. But other than the realization, there is another aspect, scholarly aspect, which is very important for philosophers and also for the followers also, because all of them cannot really realize, but definitely they will have to stand on something. And for that, actually, study of scriptures is very important. And we know that scholarly institutions, they teach philosophy. And in study of philosophy of Indian Vedanta, logic is very important. So many people actually came to Navadvip to study logic. And his father was a Pandit, Jagannath Mishra. Originally, they lived in a place which is now in Bangladesh called, the name of that state is Sylhet. Sylhet or Srihatto. Sylhet is an English rendering of the word Srihatto. So it is on the eastern part. It is on the border of Bengal and Bangladesh, not Bengal, Assam and Bangladesh, on the eastern part of Bangladesh at present. And Sylhet also was very well known for scholarly people, and his father, Jagannath Mishra, migrated for the sake of studies maybe, or for the sake of teaching. Good prospect was there, just like professors actually, they move from university to university or college to college for in the hope of getting good students or for reputation also. So in that way, his father moved to Navadvip with his family. And his mother's name was Sochi Devi. And they were Brahmin. Naturally, in those days, Brahmins used to engage themselves in studies, teachings, and priestly activities. That was the profession for them. And he had his own school, and we see that the before Sri Chaitanya was born, his parents had actually several children born. That means he was the 9th child of his parents, and only the one of them was son. That means his elder brother was son, and rest of them were daughters. That means they had so many daughters, and after that, one son, and then second son, youngest was born, and he was Sri Chaitanya. When he was born, his name was given as Gaurango because his complexion was golden. It is a strange in a sense that in India we are mostly brown colored. That means not like what is called Caucasians, not like also Africans also. That means not that dark colored. We are a mixture because India is a mixed race. What America is going to be in future, India is already that from the point of view of color, you can say. So we are in that way. He was remarkably uh, uh, fair color. That is why his name was given Gaurango. And also he had other two names. One was Vishwambhar. Vishwambhar is name of Lord Vishnu, and Nimai also. Nimai means one who will be short-lived. This name was his what is called nickname, you can say, because it is said that he was born under a neem tree. Neem tree is a tree, large tree, less like it is the what is called, there is a sister tree which is known as Chinese or China berry or in that way, there is one variety of tree, and it is similar to that. It looks like the same type of foliage is there in the neem tree, but it is very bitter. That means neem leaves are very bitter. Neem flowers are very bitter. The juice is very bitter, but it has got very good medicinal properties, especially in the skin diseases. So it is a custom in many places, especially in villages, to have a shower of neem leaves. Neem leaves means it is boiled in water, and the water is cool, and then in that water, actually, that bath is taken. Especially children are washed, and that is why neem tree is very well known. So he was born under a neem tree. That is why he was given Nimai, the name of Nimai. And also there is second meaning of this Nimai, that means who will not live long. The reason is that all his sisters, previous sisters, died very young. That is, many of the children were born, died young. In those days, it was quite common that the child mortality was high, so they did not live long. So in that way, carelessly or with or whatever it may be, his name was given Nimai. That means a short-lived one. So in that way, he was given the name Nimai. And the particular day, as I told you, 18th February, was a full moon day. And it was in the month of Phalgun. Phalgun means this is the season. That means in March, April. Usually in March it falls. So in the month of March, sometimes it is towards the end of February also. And naturally it was springtime. And another occasion was this because it was a full moon day, it was associated with the life of Lord Krishna also. Dol Yatra, that means the day of playing with color. So that was in the life of Lord Krishna. We see that on a particular day he had played with the gopis, his friends, with color. Color means colored with, mixed with water or powder, and in that way Dol Yatra is celebrated. So that was the occasion, and also it was the day of lunar eclipse. So in that way, these are the auspicious things that was associated with the day of his birth. Now he grew up, and when he was growing up, we see probably because he was the youngest child, so naturally he became a little bit mischievous. That means that because of his love and affection that was showered on him, that made him little bit mischievous. And he started studying, and there are many incidents that are described in his life. His life has been very well documented. And he had a good number of scholarly disciples also, followers, and they actually penned down in detail his life. Chaitanya Charitamrita is a very standard book which is written in Sanskrit by one of his disciples. And there are many other books that were written during his time or just after his passing away. So we get a detailed account of his life recorded in these books. And at the age of 8, he entered into a school. School means it was a scholarly place, so naturally his father or parents wanted him to be a scholar or a teacher of scriptures, a specialist in logic, which is the tradition. So he entered into a school, and the name of his teacher was Gangadas. Probably he was a very well-known person in the subject, so he entered in his school. And he studied there, and ultimately we see that he became very proficient in grammar, that means Vyakaran as it's called, rhetoric, that means in the subject of rhetoric, and of course logic. So, and he was a Shrutidhar. Shrutidhar means by listening once actually he could remember. So that was his what is called peculiar talent. We have heard that there are many persons actually who, by listening once, they can remember, especially in childhood. Swami Vivekananda also had that type of what is called talent at a young age. So the story is like this, that his teacher used to see that he was just closing his eyes as sitting quietly, and they thought that probably he's sleeping. But when they tested, actually, they found that, well, he could really recount or tell whatever has been taught or what has been said verbatim. That means just word by word. So he was also like that. That means his memory was very sharp, and whatever he used to listen, he used to really recount very quickly. And he became proficient, and there were titles given to the students by the teachers. So he has given the title to Vidyasagar during his time, because he learned so quickly, so many subjects, and so proficiently that that title was offered to him. Now, his father actually died when he was really studying. That means he was still a student, probably at the age of 11. When he was 11 years old, his father actually died. And after a few days, after a few years, actually, he became proficient. He started his own school to teach students. Toll, as it is called. Toll means is a school where Sanskrit, exclusively Sanskrit, is taught traditionally. So there are still tolls, that means there are pandits, that means scholars who like to teach in that way. So toll is like this, probably in a tradition. Nowadays, I do not know whether they have classrooms or like that, but in ancient times or even in recent times, toll means, that means you have to go to the teacher's house, and teacher's house in the what is called in the front room. He is to sit on a chair, or maybe on an asana, on a carpet, and students used to sit in front of him, and the subject on which he was proficient, he used to teach that, and students used to learn that. Probably the custom was that the book that the teacher used to teach, you have to memorize that book, or at least the lessons that he will be giving. So that portion actually the student has to memorize, because the teachers, these pandits of the toll, hardly used any books. They are so proficient that they could recount everything from the memory. So in that way, they also loved the students also to follow their footsteps. That means memorize everything, then come, then listen to the explanation, and in that way, it becomes very easy for them to teach. The point is that if you know at least the text, so naturally when the subject is taught, so less time is spent on the text. So immediately while teaching, the subject can be taught, or the text can be explained. So in that way, it is very helpful. So this is a way that tools actually worked. And the students used to go to the teacher, and the teacher was a Sanskrit scholar, and he used to teach. So he himself started a toll to teach students. And because of his reputation, he had attracted many students. And not only that, he was a teacher of so proficiency that in those days, the scholars used to have debates amongst themselves. Suppose the logic is the subject. So naturally, another teacher is also there who is proficient in logic. So just like contest, they used to have meetings, used to be arranged for to test their proficiency, or to engage them in arguments through questions and answers, and people used to enjoy, students used to enjoy, even general public used to attend those type of deliberations. And ultimately, in the arguments, the person he used to win, he became definitely very reputed, and that was the way teaching used to be performed. In the field of scholarship, it was quite common. So he was so formidable that he actually defeated most of the teachers in this type of contest or arguments. and naturally by that spread his reputation throughout the country. And obviously the other teachers become envious of him, and they used to come to him, and they also invite have the arguments, and in that way, if they could win, they got become more intelligent or more reputed than the defeated person. So in that way, many scholars used to come and challenge also the reputed teachers. So in that way, we see that there was one scholar who wanted to have that reputation come. He came from Kashmir. That means Kashmir was also a seat of learning, Sanskrit learning during his time. So he came with the object of his, what is called defeating or challenging Chaitanya at that time. Of course, his name was Gauranga at that time. Chaitanya name was given later on. So he came, but that it is said that when he came, was almost entering the village, and he was told that, well, be very careful, and he is formidable. That means you cannot defeat him. He is so intelligent and so proficient. And some examples were given, and in that way, ultimately, that person coming all the way from Kashmir actually was afraid, and he went back. That means he did not face Gaurango in the debate. So his name was Keshav Kashmiri. And there is a second opinion also that he actually engaged himself in the debate. And in the debate, it was asked that you please compose something. And the subject was given, compose a verse on river Ganges. So Keshav Kashmiri actually started composing one by line, impromptu verse. And when he uttered the line, Gaurango actually found out many faults in that, grammatical or otherwise. In that way, he started finding fault. Ultimately, he was defeated in this session. So he had to go back. Afterwards, we see that he, by that time, he had married, and he's in those days, they used to marry early, and name of his wife was Lakshmi Devi, if I remember correctly. So he went to East Bengal. That means Ganges is in the West Bengal. So in many scholars and other people were there around the state of Bengal at that time. So he went and made a tour just to preach or to become for earning more reputation. We visited many places, engaged Pandits in debates, and in that way he toured there. But unfortunately, during this time, his young wife, actually died in a snake bite. Lakshmi Devi died in a snake bite. So when he came back, so he was definitely was upset. But we see that he married second time. The name of the second wife was Vishnu Priya. And in that way, his life of a scholar or professor was continuing. And time came for him to go to Gayadham. Gayadham was reputed. It is still well known for performance of some post-death ceremony, Shraddha as it is called in Indian language, for the departed souls, especially the near and dear ones. So his father had died when he was just 11 years old or 12 years old. And naturally, by this time, he was about the age of 22. So he thought that it is right time to perform that ceremony by going to Gayadham. In Gayadham, there is a temple known as Vishnupada temple. And it is said that in the temple, the footprints of Lord Vishnu is there. So on the stone, there are two what is called footprints. and that is worship. And the custom is to offer flowers and chanting particular verses on that on those footprints in the prayer for liberation of the departed soul. That is the Shraddha ceremony, and many people go there, and it is situated on the bank of the river Phalgu. That means a river which is not very full of water except in the monsoon season, but mostly, but it remains water if you just, the water remains under the sand. So if a little bit digging is done, then the water comes out. So in that way, it is known as Phalgu River. So he went there, and when he was performing this ceremony, praying to Lord Vishnu and offering flower, actually, he had a miraculous vision. It was not expected. He went just for the regular ceremony, or the ceremony which is really common custom in those days to perform. So when he was doing prayer and offering flowers, actually, he had a vision of Lord Krishna. And that vision was so vivid, and that he went completely, his mind was completely captivated by that vision. And the vision was Lord Krishna, young Lord Krishna, actually playing the flute, dancing in the tune of it, playing the flute and dancing with the tune. And he was completely absorbed. That means this type of, he did not expect, and it was so deep, the experience, that he actually lost his, become unconscious. And when he became conscious, he has completely changed. That means tears was coming down from his eyes, and he actually wanted to have that vision again. And in that way, he was praying. And ultimately, he knew that if he can get some spiritual instruction about this worship and meditation and such other things of Lord Krishna, that will be the purpose or goal of his life. So he saw that at that point, that one well-known teacher, that means he was well-known in the Vaishnava cult, his name was Ishwar Puri, was present there. That means he was residing then or he was visiting then Gayadham, where he was there. So he went to him, and he was initiated into the name of Lord Krishna. So then actually he used to have the vision of a beautiful, charming youth with a flute in hand. That continued. Then he was completely changed. That means his mind completely overturned, and he became from the mundane pursuits. That means being a reputed teacher and earning name and fame. And also he lived a very luxurious life because his earning was quite handsome. And so naturally he could spend a lot of money, and he lived a very luxurious life. And all those things were overturned. That means he was so enchanted that he just continuously started chanting the name of Lord Krishna, and tears started flowing from his Lord. And occasionally he used to go into trance, and used to have vision of Lord Krishna. So he came a changed man, and started chanting the name of Lord Krishna almost whole day. That means without any interruption, probably without taking food, and except taking food and other things, he used to spend his time in chanting the name of Lord Krishna, Kirtan as it is called. And it became impossible for him to continue his teachership. That means he closed his school and asked the students that, yes, no, I cannot really continue to teach you. So you take leave of me. And in the meantime, there were few Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas means they are the followers of Lord Krishna in his village, and they gathered together and formed a group of chanters. That means they used to sing the name of Lord Krishna. That was their main activity. So in that way, they formed a group, and throughout the village and surrounding places, actually they started chanting the name of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, as it is called. This is a very well-known verse, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the two-line verse which is from our scriptures, from our Puranas, made together and fused together, and that became the great mantra of this age. And he started propagating that by chanting this name in this Kali Yuga. Actually, in scriptures it is said that you can have the liberation chanting the name of Lord Krishna. And naturally, everybody, many persons actually was surprised that such a change has come to him. So they became curious, and some of them started following him. And obviously, some of them, of course, got annoyed also, because this loud chanting on the streets bothered them. So in that way, they complained to the Kaji. At that time, Bengal was under the rule of Muslims. That means Muslim rulers were there. So the Kaji was the administrator of that part of the Muslim state. So they complained to Kaji that, well, what is this? That means always this noise is being created. So Kaji actually called him and wanted to punish him also. Punish means, that means probably he wanted to ask him to go away from the town or whatever it may be. But when he came, and he was when he came, the Kaji was overwhelmed by the kirtan, by seeing the fervor and devotion and the spiritual atmosphere. Actually, Kaji was completely changed. So he could not really do anything. And naturally, the fervor of chanting the name of Lord continued. And in that way, some ruffians were also there who thought that we should stop him doing these things. They did not like that. There are two ruffians, their name was Jogai Madhai. So they actually hurt, that means beat, and also probably they threw stone on the party. And Sri Chaitanya was also hurt. Blood was oozing. So still actually continued, and ultimately this Jogai Madhai, they are also converted into what is called, and become the followers of this singing group. And in this way, we see that he spent about 2 years in Navadvip, and then he felt that if I want to preach the beauty and this great spiritual benefit of chanting the name loudly, then I have to become a monk. I have to accept sannyasa, as it is called, monastic vows, because a teacher, if he is a householder, very few people will really might be respecting him, but they will think that, well, this person is teaching what is called about renunciation and chanting, taking the name of God and all those things. So, but he himself is a householder. That means he is having wife and a family and all those things. So that do not go together. That is the general impression. So he thought that to become a good teacher, respectful teacher, or effective teacher, he needs to renounce, become a monk. And at that time, his mother was alive, and he was the only child living. And his mother was really shocked, because she had another son born. His name was Vishwarup. Before Nimai was born, that means Gauranga was born, he had another son born, but unfortunately he renounced. Renounced means he left the hearth and home, and nobody actually could find any trace. So she was really very much reluctant to lose this child also. Monastic vows means, that means he will go away from the home and live in different places, especially in places of pilgrimage or whatever the place actually he chooses. and also move around the country. So that type of life actually definitely is not liked by any mother. So he took time. So Gaurango actually took time to make his mother understood that it is important for him, or to be effective in the life of a teacher, it requires to take monastic vows. And ultimately, he said that, well, I shall renounce, but I shall definitely keep uh, touch with you. Touch means that means I shall keep how are you, and also you'll be able to know how I am. And in that way, there will be communication between us, and that will be that arrangement I shall make. In that way, ultimately, his mother actually agreed. And throughout his life, we see. So at the age of 24, actually, he renounced, and then he kept contact with his mother. In those days, it was quite difficult because communication, there's no cell phone or telephone or telegraph, or probably postal services were also very crude. So he used to send devotees in batches. That means probably every alternate month or every twice in a year. In that way, they used to go to his mother and give his news, and also bring back news from his mother. In that way, he kept the communication with his mother and wherever he used to be. So after renouncing, he went to a place called Katwa, I think. That is also, and there he was a teacher who actually initiated him into uh, monastic vows. His name was Keshava Bharati. At the age of 24, in the year of 1509, he took monastic vows from Keshava Bharati. And then he proceeded towards Puri. Puri was a great place for Vaishnavas because Jagannath Puri, big temple, that temple, Lord Vishnu in the form of Jagannath. Jagannath means the Lord of the world. Jagat Nath, Jagannath. That means Jagat means world, Nath means what is called the Lord. So in that way, Jagannath was very famous place for the Vaishnavas. So he went there and stayed there. And after staying for some time, he went for a pilgrimage to the whole of India. First he went to south, then he went to west of India, and then North India. And in that way, he traveled for about 6 years. And he traveled alone. He just had one attendant with him who accompanied him. And in that way, he traveled from Jagannath Puri to south. In many, he actually visited quite a number of places that we see, that is Rameswaram, then Sringeri, then Pandharpur, such other places. There are the seats of Vaishnavakar, that means worship of uh, uh, Lord Vishnu. And then he came to Vrindavan. Vrindavan, as you know, that it was a seat of Radha and Krishna. Krishna actually played with these cowherd girls when he was in his teenage, and that is a very famous place for the Vaishnavas. But unfortunately, at that time, it was really not much prominent. That means it was a forgotten place. So most of the places associated with Lord Krishna's divine sport in Vrindavan was abandoned. Abandoned means somewhere the, the, the forest and all those things have grown around those places. So it was in a sorry state. So when Sri Chaitanya came there, he found in that condition, and he thought that it is time to locate the places where the main incidents of the life of Lord Krishna has happened. So how to find them out? So what he did, he actually used to go into meditation and a meditative mood. He used to, and also chanting the name of Lord Krishna, he used to move around. And in different particular places, actually, he used to have different moods. Moods means, that means the way Lord Krishna actually had played. And probably in one place he had played what is called a raso. Raso means he played with the gopis. So he had used to come It is sort of, for us, probably it is an imagination. Probably he used to have the deep mood of Rasa's ceremony when he went there. And in the same way, in another location, he might have another type of mood. And in that way, he pointed that this is the place where Lord Krishna has played in this way. So he reacted. Or those places were recovered, cleaned, and temples were erected. And in that way, he found out about more than a dozen places in Vrindavan and started temples there and services there. Services means worship services. And in that way, Vrindavan actually rejuvenated by Sri Krishna, Sri Chaitanya. And not only that, he engaged two of his scholars or three of his scholarly devotees to stay there permanently to supervise the propagation of Krishna's name there and also teach. So in that way, it became a great seat for the Vaishnava cult. So in Vrindavan, actually, we see that he engaged Rupa, Sanatana, and Jiva Goswami. There are three prominent disciples. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Jiva Goswami was the nephew of these two brothers. And this, there are stories about Rupa and Sanatana. That means they were what is called well-known officers in the Muslim rulers. So, but they were attracted by Chaitanya. They quit their job and became his disciple and devoted their life in the practice of spirituality and propagation of Vaishnava cult. And they wrote books also, and they used to meet people and used to have discussions. And in that way, they were great prominent preachers of Vaishnava, follower of Sri Chaitanya. Then ultimately he came back to Puri Dham. That means that was the place where a favorite place for him. And then he spent the rest of his life. That means 18 years of his life actually he spent there. So what he used to do during this time, he used to do like this. That means it was he used to go to the temple every day. That means Jagannath Puri's temple, huge temple. It is very well-known temple. Even now, actually, thousands of people go there every day. So he used to go and he used to stand at a distance. That means every day he did not go inside, but for a long time, just in a meditative mood, he used to gaze through the door of the temple, the face of Jagannath. And he used to stand there for a long time. And by supporting his left hand on the wall, and he used to gaze at that, and used to go in trance in that way. So after spending hours there, he used to come back in his house. And there also, it is said that he lived mostly in a spiritual mood. That means Sri Ramakrishna has said in one place, that means when he used to have three moods. That means when he was to be inmost, that means in a samadhi mood, you can say that those who know the word, that means in a the innermost mood. That was he was completely unconscious about outer things. That means as if he was an inert substance, like a stone. He used to lie down on the floor. And semi-conscious when he was, that means he was a little bit consciousness was there, he used to dance in ecstasy. So he had his followers were around him, who used to take care of him. So together they used to dance with kirtan, as it is called, singing. And when he was conscious, he used to sing, and also used to sometimes used to give instructions and about spirituality. So in that way, his days actually passed for 18 years. So three types of moods that is there, we see that continuously he used to have. Now, afterwards we see that he did not live long, and in the year of 1533, at the age of 47 years, he actually passed on. So the story is this, that his passing is a mysterious way he passed on. And there are many opinions or descriptions. In one place it is recorded that he went in the temple of Jagannath, and in a spiritual mood actually he rushed to embrace the image of Jagannath. It is a wooden image, and in that mood actually he got lost. Lost means that his body actually entered into that wooden image and nobody saw him coming out. So that is one of the stories that is quite well known. And in that way, he passed on. There is a second story which says that he went to the ocean, that means on the sea beach. And by seeing the blue color of the ocean, actually he rushed into the water, thinking that it is Yamuna. And taking the Krishna's name, he actually took a plunge into that, and in that way he was lost in the water. His body was not found. And there is another opinion that means probably his body was found and it was caught in a fisherman's net, and it was but a lump of flesh was found, and it was brought, and it was then what is called buried in a place. So these are the accounts of his death. And this is the life story of Sri Chaitanya. And as you know, what actually he taught and was his philosophy. His philosophy was constructed by his scholarly disciples. It is called Achinto Bheda Vedbhav. Bheda Vedbhav. That means it is a very subtle mood that Radha, that means Krishna's consort Radha, used to have for Lord Krishna. So Achinto Bhedaved, that means they were one. That means in spirituality, you know that we call that Atman and Brahman are one. So Achinto Bhedaved, that means you cannot really imagine, or you cannot really perceive what or describe what is the difference that we have between this Atman and Brahman. So that is the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya that his scholarly devotees propounded. That means Achinto Veda Vedbhava. And otherwise also we see that he popularized the spirit of chanting the name of Lord, by which actually one can get liberation, and it congregated, that is brought together people of all classes, all denomination, and all economic status. So in that way, in India at that time, casteism was quite quite prominent. So in fact, they came together and chanted the name of Lord Krishna. And that custom is quite prevalent. Probably even in India, if you go to the villages, you see that in the evening there are temples where people congregate, and for probably 1 hour or 2 hours they will chant, just chanting. It is not a deliberation or scriptural classes or something like that. They just congregate together, and with the help of the drum and cymbal, actually they loudly chant the name of Hari. And that is a spiritual practice that he has propagated. And this chanting is actually name of the God, that it is called what is called kirtans, singing the praise of Lord. It is a part of prescribed devotional practice that we see that has come down from the tradition of Narada. Narada was a great sage who, according to the legend, was a great propagator of the benefit of devotion to Lord. And he was appointed, as it is called, by Lord Vishnu himself to propagate his name. So he has said that if one wants to cultivate devotion towards God, one should practice what is called these certain practices are very useful for the cultivation or for increase of devotion. What is that? Sravana, that means hearing the excellence of Lord, all the praises of Lord. That means you are such and such big, you are such a creator. So all those things, listening to them. It is in Bhagavatam also you'll find these are there. Kirtan, of course, is singing of the praise of Lord, which Sri Chaitanya emphasized and propagated. Then smaranam, remembering him by repeating them. That like meditation. We meditate on the object of meditation, and at the same time utter the name inaudibly of the image. Then Padasevanam, service of the world as God's manifestation. That means service to the people by thinking that they're the images of God. God resides in everybody, in that spirit. If you serve people, that is also a practice. Then Archana, ritualistic worship, that is performed in temples. That means where there is a temple, you will find that there are priests or the devotees who perform the worship according to the prescribed rituals. Then bandhana. Bandhana means obeisance to him by what is called by bowing down in front of the image, and such other things are called bandhana. You'll find in many temples people actually doing obeisance around and round the temple, not only the image but around the temple. So that is also a part of the practice. Then daso means feeling of being his servant. That means I am ready to serve in any way. So that type of attitude. There are several attitudes that has been prescribed. One is called Shanto, Dasso, Sokho, Vatsala, Madhu. That means Shanto means just like friendly way. Then Dasso means just like a servant. That means a relationship between the chosen ideal, God, and the devotee. This relationship can be had in can fall into 5 categories. One is Shanto, friendly, then Dasso, which is servant-like, then Sokho, that means this is also friendly, and then Vatsalya means the child, like a child. That means Yasoda used to look after Lord Krishna as a child, so that type of attitude. And Madhura, which is very well known, the way Lord Krishna played with the boys and girls of the Vrindavan. So these are the attitude that one can have towards their chosen ideal. So in that way, the attitude towards Lord Krishna was prescribed by Narada, and one of them was this kirtan, which actually emphasized by Sri Chaitanya himself. Now, just a few, it is mostly a practice, that even an ordinary person, unlettered person, the ignorant person can do this type of practice. That is the beauty of this spiritual practice. That means anybody can do that. And you'll find that it has been popularized in our time by this Krishna consciousness. That means by one of the great devotees of Sri Chaitanya. He came to this country, Bhakti Vedanta. So in his mature age, actually, he came and popularized it, and it is has become very effective and acceptable to many people. That means many people have got the benefit of this chanting. Now, what is the philosophy? That means all spiritual practices should stand on some philosophy. That means that is the backbone through which actually you cannot really, I have said something and you follow that doesn't really stand for a long time. So why you have said that, what is that, how it connects with the scriptures, whether it is consistent with the other teachers, all those things need to be examined. So in that way, we see the philosophy of Lord Sri Chaitanya's teaching is this: Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Ultimate reality is Krishna. We say Brahman according to Vedanta Brahman, but according to this philosophy, ultimate reality is Krishna himself. So it is the God with form. Krishna is endowed with all energies. So we know Brahman is endowed with all energies. So in that way, Krishna himself, what is called, is endowed with all energies. Krishna is the ocean of rasa. Rasa means all the emotions, spiritual moods that are there. Krishna actually inheres them. And what is the relationship of individual soul? So the relationship is this: the jivas, individual souls, are all separated parts of the Lord. That means individuals are nothing but a minuscule part of the Lord Krishna. So we are also in Krishna as if, so that is the concept, but in a very minuscule way, micro way. So you are part of the great deity. Then he is saying, in bound state, the jivas are under the influence of matter. That means due to what is called disturbed condition. So we do not realize that. Why? Because we are mostly in the materialistic. That means our mind is in the not in spiritual plane. That is why we are really we are not one with the ultimate reality, though we are part of it. Then he is saying, the liberated state, the jivas are free from influences of matter. So then actually in a realized state, we become one with the ultimate, that we become Krishna himself. So we are in a disturbed condition, materialistic way, when you live in a materialistic way, actually we are separated, but when we are in great spiritual mode, when we become, at that time we become one with the Lord himself. Then the jivas and the material world are both different from and identical to the Lord. That means this creation and the created. That means creation is separate from Lord and created beings are separate from the Lord. But once in spiritual field, actually they are one. Then of course, pure devotion is the practice of the jivas. By practice of devotion, in Vedanta, there are 4 practices. Devotion is one of them, definitely. Then there is a practice of gnana, knowledge, then the yoga, meditation, and also karma. These are the 4 paths. But in Sri Chaitanya's teachings, only devotion is the path by which one can become united with the Lord. Pure love of Krishna is the ultimate goal. So what is the goal of spiritual life? Just to develop pure love. So we say that we will have to have nirvikalpa samadhi. In yoga, it is called samadhi is the goal of the spiritual practice. So that, but in Chaitanya's teaching, this part of devotion, they say that Krishna, you have to, pure love for Krishna is the ultimate goal. So in that way, it is also mentioned that after death, you will live with Lord Krishna. That means you will not get liberation, but you will live with Lord Krishna. That is the goal. And Krishna is the only lovable blessings to be received. So to get Lord Krishna, that is also goal and means of the spiritual life. So these are the few tenets of this of the Krishna Sri Chaitanya's teaching. Now I would conclude with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. As I told you that at the beginning, the title of my talk is the Love Incarnate. So by when we read this saying of Swami Vivekananda, we can figure out how important is Sri Chaitanya's life from the point of view of love for God. His bhakti, that means Sri Chaitanya's bhakti, that means devotion, ruled over the whole land of Bengal. That is the area where actually that influence was imminent. Bringing solace to everyone. His love knew no bounds. The saint or the sinner, the Hindu or the Mohammedan, the pure or the impure, the prostitute, the street walker, all had a share in his love. All had a share in his mercy. And even to the present day, although greatly degenerated, as everything does become in time, his seat is the refuge of the poor, of the downtrodden, of the outcast, of the weak, of those who have been rejected by society. That means Sri Chaitanya's place, Sri Chaitanya's teaching, Sri Chaitanya's practice is really universal. That he has emphasized the importance of it in the what is called those who are not really may not be scholar, may not be well to do in the life, may not be well respected in the society. For them, everything is accessible, we understand, but spirituality, self-realization actually is open for this type of downtrodden people. That shows that he was a love incarnate. That means his love was so universal or so sympathetic to, especially for the poor people. That is why he is considered to be the love incarnate. Sri Chaitanya actually did not write any book. Only one composition is there, Shikshastakam, as it is a well-known verse, and we shall chant that verse in our celebration of his birthday next Sunday. It is called Shikshastakam. That means 8 stanzas of Sri Chaitanya's prayer. It is a very beautiful verse that he had composed. Though he was a great learned person, he did not do any scholarly work. Just he did preaching, and also by way he taught this, which is actually how actually a Vaishnava, that means a student, should live his life. That has been prescribed. Next Sunday, we shall celebrate Sri Chaitanya's birthday at 10:30 in the morning with ritualistic worship and songs, and also obviously the chanting this Shikshastakam, that is verse with explanation in English. Om Madhuvatarithayate Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhi Irno Santoshadhihi Madhunakto Mutosasi Madhumat Parthivogang Rajaha Madhudaurastuna Pita Madhumanna Vanaspatihi Madhumagangastu Surjaha Madhirgabo Bhavantunaha Om Madhu Madhu Madhu. Sweet by the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the earths and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Thank you very much for joining this talk. If you have any question.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you very much, Noel.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Swami,
Yes.
didn't Nimai have a dog? And I like the dog story.
The story is that he kept the name of the dog as the name of his teacher, Gangadas.
And he would call it out loud.
He was, what is called mischievous at that time. So he used to take that dog to the near the house of his teacher, and he used to shout just like one shouts the dog, "Come here, go there," like that. That way he embarrassed his teacher by calling the name of his dog. So that was his quote, you can say.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Swamiji,
Apollo.
Swamiji, I typed a question there in the
Please.
chat.
What, oh, you just in the chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how.
Where is the chat?
I wanted to know when Chaitanya Dev left his home. How did his mother and his wife manage their livelihood?
Okay, actually, he advised his wife to live the life according to his name. That means Vishnu Priya. So in that way, she spent the life of a devotee. That means she used to, just like Sri Chaitanya, he used to chant. Probably she used to spend the life in service, like a what is called priestess, if you call it, by serving Lord in her own home. So in that way, she spent her life. And naturally, mother also was taken care of by her. That means by Vishnu Priya.
Okay.
When Chaitanya Dev left home, how did the family maintain their living? Family means wife and mother. Mother actually did not live long, I believe. And Vishnu Priya actually lived quite some time. And they did not have any children because he took monastic vows. So throughout her life, she was a great devotee. It was common, that means in our order, we do not accept married people, but in India, in those who take monastic vows, with the consent of mother and wife, one can take monastic life, accept monastic life. Of course, they have to provide, usually those who are good, they provide for their family, but it is acceptable to leave the family and become a monk.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, Swamiji.